Check out Bitcoin prices this morning. They're falling sharply, dipping below the 59,000 level in overnight trading. The sell-off was said to be sparked by a wave of leverage-driven liquidation after a drop in Ethereum. Joining us now to discuss the crypto market is Anthony Pompliano, founder and CEO of Professional Capital Management. We could probably go back in time with almost identical price movements to identical levels, and we've had Jan in the last 3 months talking about it. We've seen a break under 59 a couple of times, only to go back above 64, 65. What do we make of it?
Well, I think it's just sideways summer, right? You know, people kind of saw this huge run up after the Bitcoin ETF got approved earlier this year. A lot of capital flew into that, both retail and some institutional. And when the summer hit, people, I think, kind of just went away. And so as we've traded sideways, there has been volatility. But I do think that if you look at the historical kind of bull run cycles, kind of end of Q3 into Q4 is when things start to pick up, and you'll start to see, you know, kind of the asset price rise from there.
I mean, because some people, no matter what, hold Bitcoin, does it not take a lot of selling to have pretty big moves in the price? Is it like on thin volume, would you say?
You definitely have an illiquid asset, right?
Is it?
A lot of times, depending on which metric you look at, whether it's 1 year, 2 year, it could be 60 or 70% of the assets being held by people who are long-term oriented.
That's what I mean.
And so it's very different than, you know, many other financial assets, but also leverage has definitely increased in the use in the market. And so whenever you see kind of an illiquid asset, you get, you know, a good amount of leverage in there. It can move in both directions with more volatility. And if you compare, you know, Bitcoin to maybe something like gold, they're both sound money principles, but Bitcoin's 1 year volatility is 0.35, gold's is 0.09. And so that volatility is part of what draws people, that they want the upside of something like Bitcoin, but they still want the sound money principle.
What will Bitcoin's reaction be if the economy gets hit hard, as Barry Knapp was just saying he thinks will happen? What will Bitcoin's reaction be if there's a soft landing?
Yeah, so I think that the more people talk about a potential recession, the less likely that it is that we're going to have a recession, right? People are kind of eyes wide open. They're paying attention to that. And the other thing is, you know, a lot of us criticize the Fed, and rightfully so for many things. But one thing that they did get right is they've kind of reloaded their ammunition. And so now we've got rates over 5%. They've sold off $2 trillion or so off their balance sheet. If we get to some sort of market slowdown or downturn, the Fed seems to be more trigger happy. They're a little bit more sensitive. You saw this with the 2 emergency rate cuts in 2020. And I do think that they have that ammunition now to fight that market downturn.
But what's it mean for Bitcoin? Because I still can't figure out like what the correlations are necessarily. It doesn't always do what I expect it to do.
Yeah, I think that if cheap capital floods into the market, people will go and they will push out on the risk curve. The nice thing about Wall Street is that Bitcoin is still considered one of the riskier assets in their portfolio. And so I think assets will flow there. But also I think that if you look at the crypto industry, they look at this as an asset that they buy and they hold. They do not sell this asset. And so it'll remain illiquid. You'll have Wall Street kind of allocating to it. And as we've seen when interest rates have gone down or cheap capital has flooded into the market in the past, Bitcoin has done very, very well.
What happened with Ethereum?
I think that with Ethereum, people are still trying to figure out what is it and should I have it in my portfolio or not, right? You know, if you look at the ETF launch, kind of had a big first week or so, but you don't hear it talked about nearly as much as you hear people talking about Bitcoin. And so some people think it's a world computer. Some people think of it as ultrasound money. Some people think of it as, you know, name your other narrative. But I think that the lack of a clean story means that interest is waning to some degree. And if you go back and you look at its financial performance, you know, it's been at $2,400, give or take, for quite a while now. And so while Bitcoin, Solana, others are up considerably during that time frame, Ethereum is essentially flat, which I think, you know, again, kind of pulls away from capital flowing into the asset.
When the NASDAQ sold off and the VIX went up, so you see people sell things that they have to pay margin calls, and Bitcoin got hit very hard. Now the NASDAQ hasn't sold off and it's getting hit again. So whenever someone needs liquidity for whatever reason, they're going to go to the store or to the bank of Bitcoin that they have. It doesn't seem to be correlated to anything. It's correlated to risk, and it goes down when there's a de-risking. And then it might go down if, I guess it could go down if gold went down, or if it looks like, for example, if the Fed isn't going to cut, it seems to go down. Then when it is going to cut, I don't know, it can go down for any reason. There doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason to it at this point. They're small moves, though.
Yeah, I think for years, the promise of Bitcoin has been that it is a non-correlated asymmetric asset. And it's been very attractive to people.
Is that true?
Well, it's definitely less correlated than, say, stocks or other types of assets. Now, one of the things that has confused people is during moments of crisis, whether it's COVID or other moments, correlations spike towards one. And so you see these kind of sell-offs and people say, oh, maybe the non-correlation days are over. But I do think that part of, why we're sitting here talking about, hey, why is it doing what it's doing? That is part of that non-correlation. And so, yes, Bitcoin will benefit from cheap capital. It will benefit from interest rate cuts. But also, there are reasons that people are buying it that they may not buy other assets. This has been true of sound money principles for a long time. Gold has been a lower correlation than other assets. I think Bitcoin now is doing that as well. The difference is that, Bitcoin is kind of gold with wings. And so it will go up a lot more than gold when they both move forward. And it will go down a lot more when they drop in price as well.
Welcome to the Crypto Teacher. And I come back with that video just to make you think.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.
And make sure you're joining the Patrons. If you're not a part of the Patrons, make sure you're hitting the Cash App. And guys, make sure you go like and follow the TikTok. New videos are definitely coming. Now we have Bitcoin and crypto pulling back as expected. Guys, remember, we have futures ending on Friday is like clockwork. But of course, the narrative in the media is not going to be that. And then we know at the beginning of the month, they need Bitcoin as collateral on the 5th. And we start to move up again like clockwork. But the narrative in the media, they're going to come up with another reason on why Bitcoin is moving up. They don't want you to know the system because then just like everything else, it's manipulated. But we have Pump says that we are not in a recession. Guys, we've been in a recession since last year in October. Right now, we're in a great depression. Like I stated, where I'm at, every time you turn around, there's mom and pops and big corporations closing. Inflation and high interest rates are destroying this legacy market, and we know why. Because they want the fourth industrial revolution to rise. Whether robots, algorithms, and drones take the economy over, pay each other with crypto, and the sheep go inside the metaverse. But when we look at manipulation, guys, it doesn't matter whether stocks, cryptos, commodities, the central banks manipulate it all. And remember, the crypto teacher told you. Now we have the Hegelian dialectic being played. We have illegal immigrants. There's a proposal that they may be able to get money for down payments for a home. Most likely, guys, that's not going to happen. But of course, anytime you have news like that, anytime you have a bill that goes through with that type of agenda, Americans are going to be up in arms. And we have Klarna said they can cut their workforce in half. So guys, we have illegal immigrants here. We have the machines coming in to take the jobs. Now you have illegal immigrants that are going to be able to work the jobs that the machines can't do. We know Americans are spoiled. We know the agenda of the immigrants. I did a video in the Patreon, and we're starting to see it play out because the immigrants are going to have a lot to do with driving down home prices, affordable homes. And then we have China EV dominance. And we know they're getting cheap labor, not just in China, but in Mexico. And the same way they took over by manufacturing and selling cheap goods, now they're going to be selling cheap cars. Guys, if you can get a look-alike car, something that look like a Range Rover, but half the cost, what are people going to go with? With inflation, and then on top of it, when your job is in jeopardy. But remember, guys, these EVs are going to be for the robots. No steering wheel, no pedal. The NWO doesn't want the sheep to have a car at all. And remember, the crypto teacher told you. And then we have Nvidia with the earnings beat but trades down. But they also have a 50 billion buyback share purchase. And guys, we know that's all about manipulation just to keep itself up. And then we have the Fed cutting rates. So you definitely have to follow the money. But then also, guys, we know the drums are going to start beating. And we know these chip stocks are going to take a beating because the two sides are going to be created. But we know the bank funds both sides, and this is all planned in order to bring in this digital economy. And remember, the Crypto Teacher told you, because he knows when it comes to the NWO, it's all planned out. You have a wonderful day.
In the meantime, illegal immigrants in California now one step closer to receiving state funds that they could use for a down payment on a home.
Sign today of how AI is reshaping companies. The CEO of buy now pay later giant Klarna saying on a call he expects AI to cut their workforce in half and cut their reliance on major software companies, one of which is reporting later today. Deirdre Bosa has more in today's Tech Check. Hey, Dee.
Hey, Wolf, I know you've been talking about this story, but I want to put it into some more context. And really, where is software in this AI race? It continues to be the laggard this year. And a lot of folks are wondering when the benefits and the stock gains will flow to those companies building AI features and services. A lot of SaaS companies. Seeing an AI boost, Salesforce and some other SaaS names could be totally disrupted. I want to show you this slide from Klarna's first half investor update. Thanks to AI adoption, the startup was able to cut sales and marketing costs by 11% year over year. Customer service costs, they were cut by 10%. Yes, the company's spending more on tech and product development, but CEO Sebastian Siemiatkowski says that he's shutting down, quote, a lot of our SaaS providers, close quote, including Salesforce and Workday, as David Faber pointed out earlier. Now, here's how it works. Gen AI can automate tasks that people currently use a Salesforce for, such as data entry, customer service, sales forecasting. Instead of using the CRM platform, AI tools or agents, they can do the work, in many cases, faster and more accurately if these companies build it into their own business models.
What are your thoughts as an investor?
We saw this coming. So we were one of the earliest and largest investors in NEO. We always felt like China had a supply chain superiority, huge government support, an abundant market. We hypothesized that China would be 50% of the global EV market, and it is now. And really the icing on the cake has been their ability to go global now and build products that are on par or better than their Western competitors at a much lower price point. And they're going to start dominating markets that you wouldn't believe.
Dominating markets that you wouldn't believe. What does that mean?
An example would be today in the Middle East, or in the GCC, UAE, Saudi Arabia, just 3 years ago, the Chinese automakers were only about 1% of that market. Today they're 20%. And they're selling cars that are admittedly something that looks like a knockoff of a Range Rover, but it costs a fifth of the price. And even affluent Arabs are buying them rather than the higher priced alternative. And so I think you'll see Western consumers, particularly Europeans, looking at BYD, looking at Li, NEO, as they start to go global, and they are now.
In for Nvidia, 68 cents adjusted versus the estimate of 64 cents, so a beat on its bottom line. Revenue at $30.04 billion, also higher than Wall Street consensus of $28.7 billion. We have comments here from CEO Jensen Huang in the press release. Hopper demand remains strong, and the anticipation for Blackwell is incredible. He says Nvidia achieved record revenues as global data centers are in full throttle to modernize the entire computing stack. He goes on to say that Blackwell samples are shipping to our partners and customers. Spectrum X Ethernet for AI and Nvidia AI enterprise software are two new product categories achieving significant scale. Another data point here, Nvidia announcing a $50 billion repurchase of shares. We are watching
going to a different economy, and we're going to be learning more about that as we go. But clearly, we're learning that things can be done from remote locations. We're learning that technology can replace people even more than we thought.
We're not going back to the same economy. We're recovering, but to a different economy, and it'll be one that is more leveraged to technology. And I worry that that is going to make it even more difficult than it was for many workers.
In Silicon Valley, and my friends who work in technology know that what we did to the manufacturing workers, we are now going to do to the retail workers, the call center workers, the fast food workers, the truck drivers, and then even bookkeepers, accountants, insurance agents, lawyers, and on through the economy. So what happened to the manufacturing workers is a very clear sign.
And so we'll import Chinese-based CBDC technology. So it's going to be CBDC in a box provided to you by the People's Bank of China.
But every stock, every bond, every currency, every commodity, every piece of art, every private business, every piece of real estate will eventually be a token on a blockchain, an entry on a ledger, permanent and immutable. We will have truth instead of trust, and we will save over $7 trillion a year. 6 to 8% of global GDP is wasted by the friction of the trust industry that's necessary when you have dual entry accounting. with triple entry accounting, which is what a blockchain is, we get rid of all of that friction. It's a beautiful future.
Like what you see in China and their social credit scoring systems, right? If we get identity wrong, it could be a tool to enslave humanity. And if we get it right, it could be a tool to liberate humanity. And as an American, I'm obviously rooting for the one that's on the side of freedom.
Bitcoin is an international asset. And also, I do believe the role of crypto is, it's digitizing gold.
I actually believe this technology is going to be very important. Look at it. We have been part of a huge revolution in investing through ETFs. We believe that ETFs will be changing the whole way we invest. Many people still use it as a means, people are investing it for indexing. No, the majority of people who are putting money in in ETFs are active investors that are buying exposure. The entire bond market is being transformed as we talk right now. I believe the next generation for markets, the next generation for securities will be tokenization of securities. And if we can have that distributed ledger that we know every beneficial owner, every beneficial seller, we all have our code of who's buying, who's selling, instantaneous settlement. And think about it, it changes the whole ecosystem.
Chinese bank ICBC has been hit by a ransomware attack, and the U.S. Treasury market, as a result of that, has been disrupted. This, according to the Financial Times. We're getting it more right now with Bloomberg's Shonali Bassick. Shonali, what do we know?
Listen, we have the Financial Times now reporting that ICBC, one of China's largest banks here, was hit with a ransomware attack. And remember, they're a very significant intermediary in the Treasury market. The SIFMA has told its members that this has been part of the reason here that the system is kind of clogged up, if you will, during that auction that we saw a little bit before. The attack had prevented ICBC, according to the Financial Times, from settling Treasury trades on behalf of other market participants. A large executive at a major bank also telling the paper that such a large party on the fixed income clearing corp creates major concerns, potentially impacting the liquidity of Treasury markets.
Now, it was not just a poor auction. It was absolutely lousy, and when the dealers have to step in to save a treasury auction, that's a rare occurrence. And
Cryptoteacher and the new World Order book, plus the 3 kids books. It's time to re-educate. Also, new to cryptos, Coinbase, Bitrue, Binance. Do not forget book links and crypto links are in the description. The stock channel, guys. Don't forget to go like, subscribe, spread everywhere. You have your Kobo, your chip stocks, your banking, your gaming. While everybody's sitting at home, get home stocks, the Seaver, the biotech stocks. And while everybody's at home wishing, they were still getting that free money. What are they doing? Drinking and smoking weed. Don't forget about those stocks, and you have a wonderful day. The most powerful person in the world is the storyteller. The storyteller sets the vision, values, and agenda of an entire generation to come. Steve Jobs. And guys, you know I truly believe in this. When you look at the New World Order, they're the storytellers. And that's the reason why I wrote my New World Order book. But guys, now it's time to change the current generation. And I wrote 3 kids books. You know I love the Trinity because I understand the power that's in it. So I have 3 books. We have an opportunity to change the generation, to educate, not just me, but I want to show you that I take action on a daily basis. And I want you to take action on a daily basis. Whether it's your job, whether it's in your community, we have an opportunity right now to educate the masses. I posted this on my Twitter account. Please share, but this is a short clip of the 3 books. There's going to be a clothing line and action figures. Please get these books for your kids, nephews, cousins, friends, so therefore we can start the re-education now. Because as we see, the 4th Industrial Revolution foundation is definitely here. Robots, algorithms, drones, taking humanity out the picture. We have to re-educate. But let's get into the video.
Part 1. King Joshua and Drama Team save the village. Part 2. King Joshua and Drama Team save New York. COVID-33, Part 3. King Joshua and Grandma Tam goes to China.
It's mandatory to get part 1, part 2, and part 3 of this series. It's time to re-educate Generation Z.